Imagine you were strapped tightly into the cockpit of cold aluminum, 30,000 feet above occupied France. The date, November 7th, 1943. You are Second Lieutenant William E. Roach, flying a Republic P-47D Thunderbolt, serial number 4222490, a beast nicknamed Beetle. You are not fighting anymore. You are surviving. The brutal, unseen friction of the headwind over the channel has stolen your fuel. You watch the gauge needle bouncing slightly on the empty marker, a frantic red metronome counting down to zero. The massive Pratt Whitney R-2800 double wasp engine, your 18 cylinders of salvation, stutters, a dry, rasping cough. The air inside the cockpit is thick with the smell of gasoline and burnt oil. Every muscle in your body is clenched, waiting for the silence that means death.
You are no longer in the cockpit, you are an object. You are intelligence. Within hours, your aircraft, Beetle, is stripped of its American markings, hastily replaced with German yellow identification paint and the Black Cross. You are surrounded by armed guards, not to protect you, but to protect the secrets locked within your aluminum skin. The Germans, efficient and methodical, recognize the prize immediately. They need to know how the Americans build their war machine. They need to know why their best pilots, flying nimble BF-109s and sturdy FW-190s, keep seeing American fighters limp home with damage that would disintegrate any German aircraft. You are moved swiftly to Rechlin, the Luftwaffe's premier testing facility, 100 kilometers northwest of Berlin. This is the inner sanctum of German aviation intelligence, the laboratory where the enemy dissects its prey. You become the subject of the Circus Rosarius, the evaluation unit tasked with flying captured Allied aircraft. Your new pilot is Hans-Werner Lerche, a legendary test pilot, a man who will fly 125 different types of aircraft during the war without ever scratching one. He approaches you not with malice, but with a cool, scientific curiosity. You are now viewed through the eyes of the enemy engineer. Lerche climbs into your cockpit. The first thing he notes is not your mass, but your complexity. He sees double the number of gauges found in any standard German fighter. He sees levers and arcane controls for systems he has never encountered. German fighters demand manual control. The pilot is constantly adjusting the fuel mixture, the propeller pitch, the supercharger settings, the throttle, a continuous, highly skilled dance. Your cockpit, the P-47 cockpit, is a universe of automatic management. The turbo-supercharger system, the complexity of managing exhaust flow, the constant speed propeller, it all speaks of engineering that takes the load off the pilot, allowing them to focus on the fight. Lerche spends hours on the ground, studying your layout, cataloging every switch, inferring the function of every dial. He is methodical, cautious. No manual exists. He must learn you from scratch. When he finally fires up the R-2800 double wasp, the sound is revelatory. It is not the sharp, aggressive bark of a German inline engine. It is a deep, profound rumble, a sustained vibration that speaks of enormous displacement and barely contained power reserves. This is the sound of industrial might made tangible. Lerche advances the throttle. You lumber forward. You are heavy. You are a monster. At nearly 13,500 pounds fully loaded, you weigh significantly more than the heaviest single-seat German fighters. Lerche knows that at low altitudes you are exactly what German combat reports claimed: sluggish, ponderous, easily mismaneuvered. The takeoff run consumes nearly the entire grass field. But once airborne, Once you gain altitude, the truth about the P-47, the truth that will fundamentally shift German strategy, begins to reveal itself. As Lerche climbs through 15,000 feet, the Thunderbolt feels familiar. Heavy, solid, yet unable to match the climb rate of the Bf-109. If combat happened here, the Germans would win the turning fight. But as he pushes past 20,000 feet, everything transforms. German engines, the BMW 801, the Daimler-Benz 605, begin to gasp for oxygen, their performance decaying rapidly in the thin, cold air. At 25,000 feet, they might operate at 70% power. But for you, the P-47, 25,000 feet is where you are designed to live. The engine-driven supercharger on a German fighter is constrained by the atmosphere. Your turbo-supercharger, located far in the rear fuselage and driven by exhaust gases, begins to scream. It forces massive quantities of compressed air, cooled by an intercooler, back into the engine cylinders. The R-2800 maintains full rated power. Lerche, pushing the stick forward, feels you accelerate with a shocking, brutal vigor. This is not the sluggish fighter described in German reports. This is a high-altitude predator. He rolls you into a steep dive. The acceleration is almost violent. You scream past 500 miles per hour, reaching speeds where the very air compresses and begins to fight back. The controls stiffen dramatically. Lerche grips the stick with both hands, using considerable physical strength to recover. You are reaching the limits of compressibility, speeds where the airframe is under stress no German design could withstand. Yet you hold together. And then there is the roll rate. Despite your mass, you roll faster than the nimble FW-190. This combination, devastating high-speed dive and instantaneous roll, explains the baffling American tactics. A Thunderbolt pilot in trouble does not dogfight. He rolls inverted and dives away. No German fighter can follow without tearing itself apart. Lerche compiles the data. The message is damning. At high altitude, where the American bomber streams are protected, the P-47 is not inferior. It is superior in the decisive parameters. The flight tests lead to the dissection table. Rechlin's engineers systematically photograph, measure, and weigh every single component of Beetle. They are searching for technological superiority. What they find is far more frightening: material superiority. They examine the Pratt Whitney R-2800. It is a masterpiece of metallurgy. Pistons forged from specialized aluminum alloys, exhaust valves cooled with metallic sodium to handle extreme heat, a crankshaft of high-grade, scarcity-defying steel. The German metallurgists study the components with professional envy. These are materials they can no longer obtain in sufficient quantity. This engine shows no sign of compromise, no substitutions forced by resource limits. It was built exactly as designed, using the absolute best materials available. Then they turn to the turbo-supercharger. They understand the physics, how the hot exhaust gases must spin a turbine at tremendous speed to compress air back into the engine, but they cannot fathom the execution. This system requires exotic, high-temperature alloys for turbine blades. It requires precision ducting, perfect seals, and automatic regulators that function flawlessly from sea level to 40,000 feet. German engineers had tried to build this. They had prototypes, theoretical designs, but mass production was impossible. The material shortages, the lack of quality control under bombing, the absence of skilled labor, these factors created a barrier they could not cross. Yet,
Here it is. Installed in your aircraft. Standard equipment, not experimental. This casual implementation of industrial sophistication is the true shock. Then they count the armament. 8 heavy .50 caliber Browning machine guns, 4 guns per wing. Total ammunition capacity 3,400 rounds. The German analysis concludes that the volume of fire is overwhelming. The installation quality is pristine. Electrically heated bays to prevent freezing. Flawless ejection systems for spent casings. Your ammunition, too, is of superior quality. Armor-piercing cores. Consistent incendiary elements. The engineers notice the armor. The pilot sits in a literal armored bathtub. Thick armor plate protects the pilot from all critical angles. This reflects a philosophical difference. The Americans willingly accept significant weight penalties for pilot survivability. German design prioritizes speed and agility over protection, accepting higher casualty rates as an operational cost. In the end, the conclusion is devastatingly simple. The P-47 Thunderbolt is not a miracle weapon. It is just a very good weapon, designed efficiently for rapid maintenance, built with uncompromising quality, and backed by a relentless supply chain. The Germans have not simply fallen behind in technology. They are fighting an industrial war against an opponent with effectively infinite resources. Beetle is not a single fighter. It is a metallic manifestation of American abundance.
The technical reports compiled at Rechlin were models of scientific objectivity. Distributed throughout the Luftwaffe chain of command, they provided clear tactical advice. Avoid the P-47 at high altitude. Engage them below 15,000 feet. Do not attempt to dive away. But the intelligence derived from Beetle and other captured Thunderbolts offered a more profound strategic lesson that transcended mere tactics. Germany was losing a war of mathematics. Hans-Werner Lerche and the Rechlin engineers had measured the abyss. They had accurately cataloged the American industrial engine, an engine that produced 125,000 R-2800 engines, one single engine type, a quantity that exceeded Germany's entire output of all combat aircraft engines combined. The knowledge was perfect. The application was impossible. Germany now knew what it needed: high-temperature alloys, sophisticated turbo-superchargers, endless quantities of precision-machined steel. But this knowledge could not conjure aluminum from thin air, nor could it rebuild factories shattered by the very bombers the P-47 was designed to protect. The Americans had designed to their strength, industrial might. The Germans, by 1943, were desperately designing against their weakness: resource scarcity. The P-47 Thunderbolt and later the captured P-51 Mustangs served as physical proof that the war was determined by the assembly line, not the dogfight. Every P-47 shot down was replaced within days. Every German pilot lost was irreplaceable. When Allied forces eventually captured Rechlin in May 1945, they found Beetle, still wearing its hasty German markings, parked next to the captured British and Soviet aircraft the Luftwaffe had so meticulously studied. The final irony was inescapable. The engineers of the Third Reich had fully understood why they were losing the air war. They possessed the data, the precise measurements, and the professional analysis that confirmed their nation's inevitable defeat. But understanding the industrial disparity was not the same as overcoming it. Second Lieutenant William E. Roach survived the remainder of the war at Stalag Luft 1. His aircraft, Beetle, was ultimately recovered, examined one last time by American intelligence teams, and scrapped. The P-47 Thunderbolt proved that in modern warfare, the strategic advantage did not belong to the nation that produced a very good weapon in overwhelming quantities. Material abundance, systematically applied, rendered localized technical excellence strategically irrelevant. The war moved on, but the final, definitive lesson that the victor would be determined by the relentless calculus of capacity had been indelibly stamped into the technical files of the defeated.